Here are 10 of The Simpsons' darkest moments. We're starting with what feels like one of the meanest episodes, Boys of Bummer, which starts with Bart catching a ball in his Little League game.
This makes up for everything that's gone wrong in my life, or ever will!
This sends the Springfield Isotots to the league final, where Bart once again has a chance to win the championship for Springfield.
Now for the defining moment of my life.
But, as fate would have it, Bart fumbles the catch and drops the ball, and he ends up losing the game. The people of Springfield, of course, react rationally and normally to... Who am I kidding? They boo and berate the child for losing the game, because apparently Springfield has nothing else going on for it, other than a child's sports league.
I put on fresh makeup for this?
Bart, looking to get away from the jeering crowd, runs out of the stadium and winds up in Chief Wiggum's car, who does what any good police officer would do and drives him right back onto the pitch to be publicly humiliated.
He's back! Go nuts, everyone!
So, the whole town of Springfield bands together to bully a 10-year-old, and it gets so bad that even famous Major League Baseball losers, which I'm told are the American equivalent of the scum of society, hate and mock Bart, bringing him to actual tears.
You stink like a Dutchman's throw-up. Talking to you was the biggest error of my life.
As if it can't get worse, graffiti appears all over the Simpson home, along with every building in Springfield, even a passed-out Barney, are covered in it, declaring that Bart Simpson isn't welcome here. But who would actually hate Bart enough to feel the need to let the whole town know? Well, none other than Bart himself.
See? I hate me too. Now we can be friends again.
Jump! Who said that?
I mean, considering the next thing he does is throw himself off, this was just dark. He sends himself to the hospital, and after this turn of events, the town of Springfield finally realizes that it's gone too far, and they mock him even more.
He'll be all right. Right now, he just needs peace and quiet.
Bart sucks! Bart sucks!
Marge and Lisa try to yell at them so that they can at least try to win Bart some self-esteem back.
But what can we do about it now? It's not like we can play the game over again.
Can't we?
But he has difficulty catching the ball, again and again and over again. But eventually, after what appears to be an entire night of trying, he finally catches it on his 78th attempt. You know what they say, 78th time's the charm. And it's not just Bart's mental health that's been tested by the show. His physical health has also been a target for Simpsons' dark moments, as this next episode will show when Bart can't stop eating and he gets sent to fat camp. Vending machines appear all over Springfield Elementary, and Bart takes full advantage of it. The Heartbroke Kid starts innocently enough, with the cash-strapped Springfield Elementary installing the vending machines to ensure a generation of loyal customers who will consume whatever unhealthy slop is marketed to them.
It's fun to obey the machine.
And nobody enjoys obeying the machine more than Bart, who takes a break from his normally picture-perfect regime of healthy nutrition to eat junk food, with absolutely no negative consequences whatsoever. Marge starts off being concerned.
I'm still Bart's mother, and I don't like him stuffing himself with junk. Oh, fine.
Until she can't say no to Bart's little face.
3 weeks later.
I guess she should have more self-control because now, thoroughly chunky, Bart skateboards home, and on his way, he cracks the sidewalk, crashes into both his parents' cars, and he experiences an honest-to-God heart attack.
Doctor, little kids aren't supposed to have heart attacks. They're supposed to skin their knees and poke their eyes out and be smothered by cats.
Recognizing just how bad things have gotten, Marge tries to put Bart on a healthy diet.
Honey, please take this seriously. When people used to ask me how you were doing, I said, at least he's got his health. Now you've got nothing.
But Bart is nothing if not Homer's son, and cheats on his diet like it's a test. But seeing no other hope for their son, Marge and Homer host an intervention for Bart, and it doesn't go too well.
Help! Kidnappers!
They're not kidnappers. They're professionally trained child snatchers who are taking you to a maximum security fat camp.
And Bart is thrown back into the van and never seen again. Just kidding, he's sent to his own personal hell.
Wake up, fatties! Stop dreaming about butter. Dream calories are real calories.
As if nearly dying and being sent to fat camp weren't dark enough, the fat camp employs methods that my thesaurus tells me can be described as medieval.
Bart Simpson, I'm just big boned.
No such thing.
Back at home, the price of Bart's camp forces the Simpsons to rent their home out to the worst people imaginable for money.
Youth, I hate them. Secondly,
How much is costed for stay night of one?
German backpackers. Back at the camp, the warden, camp counselor, decides to take Bart on a dramatic car ride home. And when I say dramatic car ride, I mean the counselor doesn't even let Bart talk.
Can I just...
Drama.
Bart can't believe his eyes when he sees what's happened at the house.
German backpackers?
And the Germans are quick to throw shade at Bart.
Oh, so he's the strudel-sucking Globenheimer who has bankrupted them with...
A quick visit of the German occupation of 742 Evergreen Terrace is enough to convince Bart to take his health seriously. That night, he steals money from the vending machines, returning it to his family so that they never have to interact with a German again.
Oh no! Who will put up with our nonsense now?
To Disneyland, where we will heap the scorn on Goofy.
And in case you were wondering, yes, the Simpsons see the irony of sending Bart and not Homer to Fat Camp, so this is exactly where he's sent to end off the episode. It really brings to mind the old saying of not throwing rocks in fat houses. That's the saying, right? Anyway, let's give Bart a break and focus on an episode about one of the more depressing characters, like Mo. Specifically, this episode, where Mo almost commits suicide and then acts creepy around babies in Mo Baby Blues. Fun! Mo, all alone, decides to take a step out of his comfort zone and visit the botanical gardens along with the rest of Springfield, but it's full, so someone has to leave.
Someone who's alone, already bitter, someone whose feelings have been trampled on so many times, one more won't make any... Oh, Mo.
Not wanting to be a burden, Mo leaves, choosing to be physically pushed out just so that he can experience human contact. God, this is going to be a long and depressing video. The algorithm says you guys like this kind of thing, so don't blame me for this. Ironically, this may have saved Mo at least one misfortune.
Man, the plant cut one.
Bart, plants don't... Woo.
Homer, being as good a driver as he is a nuclear safety inspector and father, drives and brakes just a little too hard, sending Maggie flying out of the car and over the bridge. Normally, this would mean the end of poor little Mags, but as she's thrown over the bridge, she lands right in the hands of Mo, in the middle of a suicide attempt.
that hideous man is a hero!
In what might be the most heartwarming moment of this video, Maggie kisses Mo and actually makes him smile, I think? It's hard to tell. Marge gives Mo a thank you gift.
Jesus, something in my eye. Ah, it's just some glass.
Seeing that they have a bond, Marge gets Mo to babysit Maggie, which he's surprisingly good at. I guess all that experience of babysitting Homer made him a pro, but looking after babies is at least a little different than looking after drunks, so he tries his hand at reading her Alice in Wonderland.
White rabbit? Chicks popping mushrooms? This is like the Playboy Mansion.
Looking for a more age-appropriate story, he decides to tell her the story of the gangster classic, The Godfather.
The Godfather's playing with his grandson, see? So he sticks an orange in his mouth, like this.
And this goes on for a while.
And he shuts the door on Annie Hall.
Now, as if telling a toddler the story of a very violent movie wasn't weird enough, the Simpsons start to notice that Mo's getting too overprotective of Maggie.
Hey, Oshkosh Bagosh! She don't want what you're shoveling.
His gift to her is a model-sized figure of his bar.
I don't know if toy drunkards are an appropriate gift for a baby.
Yeah, me either. Things finally reach their breaking point when Marge and Homer discover that Mo has broken into their house to calm Maggie when she cries, which he's aware of because he set up a surveillance system in her bedroom.
You are not allowed to see Maggie anymore.
Forced back into his life of loneliness and suicidal ideation, Mo can't get over Maggie and sees her face everywhere, including on the faces of his customers/only friends.
You guys mind if I kiss your tummies?
And it's not just Mo experiencing separation anxiety. Maggie misses Mo too after seeing Fat Tony's impression with the orange, so Maggie escapes and crawls after the gangsters.
Maggie's gone!
It must have been Mo.
They head to stake out his home with Springfield's finest. Looking in from outside, the episode paints its darkest image when it looks like Mo— oh my god, he's throwing Maggie into an oven.
Chief, it's just a ham.
Oh my god. Thanks, Eddie. I think I need a breather after that one. So it turns out Mo didn't kidnap Maggie, and he agrees to help find her, figuring out that the gangsters will be at an Italian restaurant. Man, maybe Mo and Chief Wiggum should switch jobs. Unfortunately for poor little Maggie, she's in the restaurant right when rival mob factions are about to blow their brains out.
Maggie's right in the middle of that Italian-American-Mexican standoff.
And Mo runs right into the middle of the conflict, saving Maggie, and bringing the mobsters to tears.
I ain't cried like this since I paid to see Godfather 3.
And with that mob conflict resolved, the episode ends on a light note with the Simpson family letting Moe stay in Maggie's life. I don't know about you guys, but this one was a bit heavy for me. Maybe we should deal with a lighter subject, or a less controversial episode. A subject like, say, identity fraud, and an episode like The Principal and the Pauper. Now, for those of you who are new to this, the last thing I said was a joke. The Principal and the Pauper is considered one of the most controversial episodes, and some fans even consider it the end of The Simpsons' golden era. It starts, ordinarily enough, with Principal Skinner being given a surprise tribute for his 20th anniversary working at Springfield Elementary. But being treated somewhat nicely by Bart isn't the only surprise of the night, when out of nowhere an old man barges in claiming to be Seymour Skinner, prompting the principal to make a shocking confession.
I'm an imposter. That man is the real Seymour Skinner.
See, part of the reason why this episode was so controversial when it came out was that this felt oddly out of place for the show, and people believed that characters were who they said they were. But whatever, let's roll with it. Who is the man claiming to be Seymour Skinner? Turns out his real name is Armin Tamzarian, a former street punk from out of town who robbed an old lady and a judge.
They gave me a choice. Jail, the army, or apologizing to the judge and the old lady. You know, of course, if I'd known there was a war going on, I probably would have apologized.
That's right, the law-abiding and pencil-pushing principal didn't fight in Vietnam because of his beliefs in the rules or being drafted. He was being punished for delinquency. But like a cop just 3 days before retirement, Skinner was suddenly killed in combat, or at least presumed so.
Come on, get to the part where you steal his identity.
And that's exactly what he did.
Hello, I'm...
Seymour? Is that you?
Yes, Mother, it's me.
And I think this was a big reason why many people considered this to be a dark moment for The Simpsons. Principal Skinner being a massive mama's boy is one of his defining traits, and this twist really calls into question why he would put up with her if he wasn't actually her son. But anyway, back to the episode. Tamzarian resigns from his position at the school and breaks up with Ms. Krabappel.
Good evening, Edna. I know we were planning to see a film tonight, but instead I'm leaving town forever.
He sure knows how to let a woman off easy, and I thought getting broken up with via text was bad. And at least that's a little more polite than what he said to his former students.
Up yours, children.
But, much like reviewers when this episode came out, none of the residents of Springfield like this new setup. They don't know who the real Seymour Skinner is. To them, Armin Tamzarian is the real Skinner. Wanting to fix everything, Marge, Edna, and Agnes all visit Tamzarian in Capital City and try to convince him to come back.
You're my real son. You've been my son longer than he has, and he doesn't need me, and I don't need him. Now you march yourself downstairs and get in that car.
But this just leaves one question. What about the real Seymour Skinner? Don't worry, I'm sure the residents of Springfield have come up with a humane solution to this situation, and aren't just tying him to a train that's leaving town and forbidding him from ever returning. When I say I'm sure, I can't actually say what happened because of Judge Snyder's ruling on the case.
And I further decree that everything will be just like it was before all this happened, and no one will ever mention it again, under penalty of torture.
Yeah, even the writers of this episode didn't seem fully on board with this idea. But oh well, let's get the taste of what's considered one of their worst episodes out of our mouths by looking at an episode many fans consider their best. Oh, and Homer drives someone so insane they're sent to their deathbed. In Homer's Enemy, Homer finally, gains an enemy. Starting with Frank Grimes' tragic backstory where he was abandoned by his parents, engaged in child labor, and was grievously injured in a silo explosion. But don't you worry, he bounced back.
That's the kind of man I need on my team, Smithers. A real scrapper. A self-made man like me.
Sadly for poor old Frank, being hired by Mr. Burns means working with Homer, who Frank discovers might not be the most qualified man for the job. What with not even having a degree in nuclear physics. And only getting hired because he showed up the day they opened the power plant.
I didn't even know what a nuclear panner plant was.
And with that fantastic impression made, Frank becomes genuinely shocked at Homer's stupidity and eating habits.
God, he eats like a pig.
I don't know. Pigs tend to chew.
He's not wrong, Homer looks like he inhales food, honestly. But whatever animal he eats like, it has to be one with a stomach strong enough to handle sulfuric acid, which Homer almost drinks.
Acid, eh? Gee, that would have been stupid. Boy, would my face have been red.
Stop laughing, you imbecile!
But still gets in trouble with Mr. Burns.
Come with me.
Geez, that's terrifying. But Frank makes his feelings about Homer very clear.
I don't like you. In fact, I hate you.
Now, while Homer has never really had an actual enemy, he's unsure how to handle this, so he decides to invite Frank over for dinner. Frank then acts like an average Zoomer walking into a supposedly poor boomer's home.
Good heavens, this is a palace.
Surely these great and totally earned accomplishments would win over poor old grimy.
You're what's wrong with America, Simpson.
Remember how I said that Frank was supposed to be Homer's total opposite? That's kind of the point of the episode. So what does a smart but beaten down man do when he realizes he lives in a world where everyone acts like Homer is normal? Why, create a fake ad convincing Homer to enter into a children's model power plant competition to humiliate him.
Oh, design your own power plant, eh? This is my chance to show everyone how professional I am.
Absolutely normal reaction if you ask me. But of course, this is Springfield, and the rule of the town is that Homer never gets punished. Not really. In fact, on the day of the competition, the plant gives Homer the first prize above all the kids. This is when Frank Grimes absolutely loses it.
Can't stand it any longer. This whole plant is insane.
This is Frank's last straw, and he has a mental breakdown where he walks around the plant pretending to be Homer and doing things that Homer would do.
What's this? Extremely high voltage. Well, I don't need safety gloves because I'm Homer Simpson.
And just like that, Frank is killed off as quickly as he was introduced, having been driven insane by Homer. Homer even gets all the attention at Grimes' own funeral. I mean, that is depressing. But anyway, let's move on from death and violence and focus on some less harmful things that never hurt anyone, like cheating on your wife. Right, one of the few canonical episodes, and it's the one where Apu cheats on Manjula in The Sweetest Apu.
Manjula, why did you bring the octuplets to work? This is supposed to be our special time together.
Some special time.
Right off the bat, Apu is in the bad books. But once the kids have gone, Homer invites Apu to the reenactment of the American Civil War, which I wasn't taught about in school, but I'm sure is a totally non-controversial conflict, right? Right?
I don't know which part of that sentence to correct first, but I cannot come. I work 22 hours a day and then I go home to a wife who will not touch me.
Well, we can see where this is going. When a tall blonde walks in, the squishy lady, and Apu gets all nervous when she calls him handsome. After beating up a beer keg during the reenactment, Homer tries to return it to the Quickie Mart only to discover Apu in the middle of grown-up things with the squishy syrup delivery lady, Annette.
Ooh, squishy lady, you've had less than 8 kids, haven't you?
He may be cheating on his wife, but a Rizzler this man is not. This discovery shocks Homer so much that he walks backwards all the way home, and even dreams of Apu's infidelity in his sleep.
Homie, what's wrong?
Nothing. There's nothing eating me up inside.
But Homer's eyes betray him, and Marge is able to figure out exactly what Homer saw. This understandably worries both of them, who can't help but think about Manjula and their 8 children. Now, of course, they want to tell Manjula, but Marge and Homer figure it would be better if Apu did this, and tell him that they know what he's done.
It only happened once, but I'm so ashamed. I am scum.
I mean, you said it, not me. Apu tries to break things off with Annette, but she shows him her talents, and they sleep together again, which puts Apu into a rather peculiar mood.
Wait, something's wrong. Why aren't you pressuring me for sex?
Apu denies anything's wrong until Manjula brings out receipts and catches Apu in the act by going through the Quickie Mart security footage and showing it to him. And the evidence is, well...
that's good adultery.
Let's just say it's compromising. Not a lot he can refute with that. Manjula kicks Apu out of their home and explores the opportunity of divorce, but gets cold feet when she discovers just how bloodthirsty divorce court can get.
The face of divorce is not as beautiful as I had hoped.
Revenge may be cathartic, but it can also get ugly. Instead, Manjula agrees to take Apu back on the condition that he gets a cartoon published in The New Yorker, one of the most read magazines in America, which, of course, he does. The man is nothing if not determined.
Apu, you have completed the list. You may now move back with your family and your never-ending disgrace.
When looking into this more, I found out that the first draft of this, again, canon, episode, ended with Annette having an affair with Chief Wiggum and breaking his family up. But that was scrapped because apparently that was too dark. Apu cheating on his wife? A-okay. But Wiggum cheating on his wife? Now that's just beyond the pale. With that out of the way, let's go back to one of The Simpsons' very first episodes, just to show that they've been dark since the beginning, too. All right, the episode where Bart is sold into slavery. This should be light. Now, season 1 of The Simpsons is already a pretty dark season, The writers were treading new water and weren't really sure what the tone of the show would be. So they erred on the side of caution and decided to make this episode about child slavery. It starts with Bart in trouble for being a slob and forced to clean up his room, where he discovers
A cherry bomb. I thought I blew all you guys up.
taking advantage of American weapons laws, Bart exercises his Second Amendment rights and blows up the school bathroom, injuring Skinner's mother in her very first appearance on the show. This is the last straw for Skinner, who proposes a foreign exchange trip to France, and in return, the Simpsons would host an Albanian student.
You mean all white with pink eyes?
No. A student from Albania.
Now that's not really important to the episode, I just felt the need to mention that while Bart is in France, the Simpsons are hosting an Albanian child spy, just so you could get the vibe of how dark and weird these first season episodes are. But anyway, Bart arrives in the land of baguettes and bibliothèques, excited about the prospect of staying in a winemaking castle, only to discover,
Ew, what a dump.
rather than the rural stay he was promised, Bart has instead been invited to stay at a run-down farm where a couple of French peasants, César and Ugolin, intend to make him feel about as welcome as any other tourist in France.
Welcome to your new home. Escape is impossible.
Bart is treated poorly and made to perform back-breaking labor. He doesn't even have a bed or clothes. And I thought my hostel stay in Paris was bad. As if all this wasn't bad enough, Bart also discovers that he's making wine just so that César and Ugolin can cut it with antifreeze, which they force Bart to taste. Now, being real with you all, I've had alcohol that I describe as having a burning feeling before, but I've never meant it literally. But with their antifreeze supplies running low, César and Ugolin send Bart into town to get them more. And sadly, as Bart tries to tell a police officer everything, only to not be understood. But then,
Here I've listened to nothing but French for the past 2 mois. Et je ne sais pas un mot. Eh?
he tells them everything and becomes a celebrity in France before heading back home to Springfield.
So basically, I met one nice French person.
So, with the question of whether child slavery is good or bad answered, the answer is bad, by the way, don't enslave children, or anybody else for that matter. But what is even worse is being the reason your neighbor falls to her death. Right, another canon episode, the one that killed Maude Flanders. How did the writers handle temporarily losing the voice of Maude? Why? By killing her off, of course. Not sure why they singled Maude out. If it were up to me, Helen Lovejoy seems like she deserved it a little more. But I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles. And she gets killed off at one of the worst places to go.
Oh my god, it's a racetrack!
While going on a nice, peaceful walk, the Simpsons stumble across the new racetrack in town. After Bart somehow persuades the driver to give him a ride, they're given free tickets to the next race.
Hi, diddly ho, pedal to the metalophiles.
And the Flanders family is there too.
I like the fresh air and looking at the poor people in the infield.
But a day of watching crashes and gawking at Springfield's underclass takes a dark turn, the way most things do, by the introduction of free t-shirts. Shirts are thrown into the crowd by a cannon which may have had a little too much gunpowder jammed in, as it's apparently strong enough to knock a grown woman off her feet and over a stadium.
Fire!
Ooh, a bobby pin!
Maude?
And just like that, Maude was gone, killed off, because the show didn't want to pay her voice actress more money. A pretty terrible way to go, if you ask me. At the funeral, people start paying their respects, in questionable ways.
She was hot. What? You can't take a compliment?
Hot, you monster!
That's good. No, let it out.
And after what looks like Ned's first fight ever, Bart heads over to try and help Rod and Todd.
When I'm feeling low, you know what always cheers me up? Is it love? Kindness? Ooh, tough room.
Ned is left hurting and regretting every decision up to that point.
But I can't believe my last words to Maude were no footlongs.
And here is when Homer uses his brain and decides to make Flanders a tape for all the single women of Springfield to see.
Okay, from here we star wipe to a glamour shot of Flanders paying his bills. Then we star wipe to Flanders.
Dad, there are other wipes besides star wipes.
And the dates roll in.
These are the women who saw your videotape and are interested. And feel free to root around in the one-nighter bid.
After reviewing the women's response tapes, he heads on a date with Edna Crabapple, who is also killed off later. God, Ned can't catch a break, can he? At this point, marrying Flanders feels like a death sentence. But alas, Ned isn't quite ready to move on just yet, and is starting to act downright peculiar in his grieving.
I'm not going to church today.
he changes his mind and hurries to make it to the church just in time to see a Christian rock group performing with a notably attractive lead singer.
He's talking about the Bible.
So? She's good looking. Shut up.
And through either the power of God or an attractive singer, whichever is more powerful, Ned is able to regain his faith and hold out hope to find another partner again. If only that date with Edna had gone a little better. But anyway, let's move on from death to Homer getting attacked by crows. Right, the episode where Homer becomes addicted to marijuana. Buckle up, kids, we've already covered sex and rock and roll. Now's the time for drugs. It starts innocently enough, with Marge growing food in the backyard, which attracts the unwanted attention of crows. And Marge sets up a scarecrow, but unfortunately doesn't take into account that she's married to a moron who would also be scared by a scarecrow. Looking to stand up for bird brains everywhere, Homer kills the scarecrow, winning the crows over to his side.
So Lisa says by killing their enemy, I became the Alpha Crow.
But all good things must come to an end, and Homer fights the crows after they try to steal Maggie, a fight that Homer inevitably loses and winds up in the hospital.
Say, Doctor, can you do something about my searing pain?
Dr. Hibbert, presumably worried about contributing to the American opioid crisis, prescribes Homer some medical marijuana. Homer is understandably wary, mostly due to his only previous exposure to weed resulting in getting his crotch bitten by a police dog. But he gives it the old college try, and 420 blazes it right in his own room.
Okay, let's see. Toke as needed. Caution, objects may appear more edible than they actually are.
Now, I can't actually show you Homer getting high, A, because I don't want to get demonetized, but also B, because the episode itself never actually shows it. The Fox network was uneasy with the idea, but while we may not see Homer get high, we do see the after effects, as does his family, who notice some fragrant smoke wafting from his room.
What's that billowing down the stairs?
Surprise, surprise, they see Homer higher than Snoop Dogg, right in the confines of their own home. Normally, discovering an intoxicated family member might be cause for concern, but keep in mind, he has a medical prescription. And also, this is Homer we're talking about. The man hasn't known a sober night in 36 years. But while his family may be worried, smoking weed comes with some upsides for Homer, like making him suddenly interested in the Bible when Flanders comes knocking on his door.
Oh man, this is long. Could you read it to me?
In fact, Homer loves the Bible so much that he decides to do Ned a solid and signs his petition. Unfortunately for Homer, he's too blazed to notice that the petition he signed is calling for the decriminalization of medical marijuana. Don't sign while high, kids. Also, don't get high. He only discovers what he's done when he realizes that his signature was the final one necessary to get the petition on the vote, meaning Springfield has one last chance to keep weed legal. Homer and a gaggle of other stoners organize a concert by noted Mary Jane enthusiasts Fish, which they enjoy so thoroughly that they don't even realize.
Oh man, they already voted! And we lost!
Yep, one of the downsides of marijuana is that it makes organizing things pretty difficult. But while weed may soon be illegal, there's still one last adventure. See, Mr. Burns is about to host a shareholders meeting, but he's worried that his jokes might not land without a laugh track.
Smithers, I need someone who laughs at all my jokes. You know, honest feedback.
And in walks Homer, ready to laugh at just about anything Burns throws at him. The only problem is that on the night of the meeting, a sober Homer and Smithers realize that, much like Lance Armstrong, they can't do anything without drugs.
Start inhaling, Waylon.
This leads to the two co-workers getting so high that they accidentally leave Mr. Burns to drown in a tub. Now, rather than cancel the meeting due to, death, they instead decide to host it anyway, with Smithers moving Mr. Burns around like a puppet, making him dance so vigorously that his puppet strings snap, and Mr. Burns comes back to life. And that's the end of the episode. Bit of a weird one, that one. There were some laughs, but nothing made sense, which I guess is a pretty accurate representation of what it feels like to get high. But that just leaves one last episode on our list. This one can't be too controversial, right? Right? Homer versus Dignity. Oh, this is the one where Homer... Yeah, strap in, this one's a dark one. So, it begins normally enough with Homer's credit card getting rejected at a fancy restaurant.
Oh, how embarrassing. Well, let me just give you one of my many other valid...
After paying their tab by being forced into mariachi slavery and selling the floor of their car, Homer realizes that he needs to start making more money. And as luck would have it, an opportunity is right around the corner. Smithers leaves Springfield for a few months to produce a Malibu Stacy musical in New Mexico, which gives Mr. Burns a chance to explore his factory and meet his workers. Lo and behold, he happens to run into Homer, who desperately needs a raise. But rather than just give Homer money, he offers him some cash if he would just throw some pudding at Lenny. Now, Homer may be desperate and an idiot, but he wouldn't betray one of his only friends for something as simple as,
Ow, my eye! I'm not supposed to get pudding in it!
This wanton act of cruelty gets a chuckle out of Mr. Burns, who decides to make Homer his new
prank monkey.
Basically, Burns gives Homer cash, and in return, Homer performs pranks for him. However, Mr. Burns is clearly an avid fan of YouTube prank channels, because his idea of a prank seems to involve random acts of cruelty to other people. Sure, they start innocently enough, with Homer eating a priceless comic book in front of Comic Book Guy, or dressing up as a baby and pretending to have pooped his nappy.
I made a boom boom.
But this episode earns its reputation as having the show's darkest moment when Burns brings Homer to a zoo. It all seems fine enough at first. Homer is dressed up as a panda.
Why do I have to do the Lindy Hop?
Oh, that's the heart of the bit.
Homer, pretending to be a panda called Simpson, does the Lindy Hop in front of a crowd, which leads to him being shocked by zookeepers to calm him down. But calm him down for what, you may ask?
Hey, there's our resident bull panda, Ping Ping.
Homer isn't just dressed up as any old panda, but specifically a female panda, and he's in a cage with a very eager male. Homer trips over a rock, but for pandas, that is something called presenting. Homer tries to get out, but it's too late, and he's overpowered by all... Oh, wait, let me Google how much pandas weigh. 100 kilograms? Really? That doesn't seem like that much. But whatever, it's enough to overpower Homer, who's quickly dragged off by Ping Ping.
You ain't going nowhere, cutie.
That's right. The high point of this episode features Homer being sexually assaulted by a panda. I think you can see why this is considered the show's darkest moment. And Lisa notices this too when she sees her dad in a panda suit.
Dad, how can you put a price on your dignity?
After being violated by a bear, Homer decides that enough is enough and gives up being Burns' prank monkey, donating his gains to a toy store. The store owner asks Homer to dress up as Santa Claus, but much like death and taxes, Mr. Burns is always lurking behind every corner, and he approaches Homer on his parade float, asking him to do one last prank. Homer, finally developing a backbone, and probably still scarred from the whole panda thing, refuses.
Not for $1 million.
But while Santa Claus throws fish guts on the crowd, surprise, it's not actually Homer, but Mr. Burns himself. Homer has finally gotten himself some dignity and refused the final prank, ending the episode on a rather abrupt note. Thanks for watching! If you got this far, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more Simpsons content.